Most men make the same mistake in love. They believe that the more they try, the more valuable they become. They try to impress. They try to please. They try to prove they are worthy of being chosen. And yet, the harder they try, the less they are respected. If you've ever felt someone slowly lose interest the moment you cared more, this is not a coincidence. It is a pattern. A pattern few men are taught to recognize. Because attraction does not grow from effort. It grows from presence. From a man who is grounded in himself, unmoved by approval, and unafraid of loss. Today, we are going to talk about a truth that changes everything. The moment you stop trying to impress is the moment you begin to matter. Stay with me. Because this is not about playing games. It's about reclaiming your value. By returning to who you were before you started chasing validation. Welcome to the Stoic Love Wisdom channel. This is where we share lessons about love, real-life experiences and tips for building strong relationships. In today's video, I will share with you, when you stop trying to impress, you start to become valuable. These may be things you have never thought of. If you are looking for a deeper understanding of love and how to develop relationships, don't miss this video. Before watching the video, find a quiet space and put on your headphones to feel every word I am about to share. Relax and enjoy this journey with me. Are you ready to start this journey? Let's begin. Part 1, The Silent Shift, Why Chasing Approval Makes You Invisible. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes something uncomfortable. The harder he tries to be impressive, the less impressive he actually becomes. I learned this not from books, but from failure. From watching women slowly lose interest. From noticing how my words carried less weight the more eagerly I spoke them. From feeling that quiet disrespect in the air, subtle, but undeniable. No one tells you this when you're young. You're taught to prove yourself. To show your value. To win affection through effort. But attraction does not work like a resume. The moment you try to convince someone of your worth, you silently announce that your worth is negotiable. And negotiable value is never respected. The hidden cost of trying too hard. Most men don't realize this, but every attempt to impress carries a hidden message. It says, "Please validate me. I need your approval to feel whole. My value depends on how you see me. You may think you're being kind. You may think you're being romantic. You may think effort equals devotion. But to a woman, especially one who is emotionally aware, it feels like pressure. And pressure kills desire. When you over-explain yourself, you shrink. When you overgive, you weaken your position. When you over-pursue, you reverse polarity. Stoic philosophy teaches us a brutal truth. What you chase controls you. And what controls you can never admire you. Why real value never announces itself. Think about the most respected men you've encountered. They don't speak the loudest. They don't try to dominate conversations. They don't rush to prove their intelligence, success, or moral superiority. They move slowly. They choose their words carefully. They don't react emotionally to every stimulus. They are not cold, they are contained. And containment is power. A man who does not need to impress is a man who has already impressed himself. That is the foundation of masculine value. The Stoic law of attraction. Stoicism does not teach indifference, it teaches self-mastery. In love, self-mastery manifests as this. You express interest without attachment. You give affection without expectation. You walk away without resentment. This is not a strategy. This is an internal position. When a woman senses that you are not trying to extract validation from her, something changes. She feels free. And freedom is intoxicating. Paradoxically, when she is no longer your emotional anchor, she begins to lean toward you. Because desire flows toward what does not need it. Why effort isn't the same as value? Let me be clear. This is not about being lazy. This is not about playing games. This is not about emotional withdrawal as punishment. Effort is not the enemy. Neediness is. A man who builds his life, his body, his mind, and his mission, and invites a woman into it, is magnetic. A man who reshapes himself to be chosen is forgettable. One operates from abundance. The other from fear. Stoicism reminds us. You control your actions, not the outcome. When you release the outcome, the need to be liked, chosen, validated, you reclaim your dignity. And dignity is deeply attractive. The moment you stop performing. Here is the turning point most men miss. The day you stop performing. You stop auditioning. You stop curating a version of yourself for approval. That day, your nervous system relaxes. Your voice slows down. Your eye contact deepens. Your reactions soften. You are no longer seeking connection, you are allowing it. And people feel that. Women feel it immediately. They may not be able to explain it, but they sense. You are not trying to impress. You are not afraid to lose them. You are grounded in yourself. That is when curiosity begins. Why walking away increases your value. One of the most stoic acts in love is knowing when to disengage quietly. Not dramatically. Not bitterly. Not with a speech. Simply, with self-respect. When your effort is not reciprocated, the stoic response is not anger. It is clarity. You withdraw attention, not as punishment, but as alignment. And here's the truth many men resist. The ability to walk away is the ultimate proof of value. Because only a man who believes in his own worth can afford to lose someone who does not see it. A final thought for this part. If you remember only one thing from this chapter, remember this. You do not become valuable by being impressive. You become valuable by being centered. Centered in your principles. Centered in your purpose. Centered in your ability to stand alone without collapsing. In the next part, we will explore how detachment is misunderstood, and why emotional independence is not coldness, but the deepest form of masculine love. Love, like a mirror that reflects ourselves. When you learn to love, you are also learning to look back at yourself. What are your strengths? What are the wounds that need to be healed? And understanding yourself will help you understand the other person more deeply. That is also the reason I share on this channel, to help you see love as a journey to nurture your soul. If you find these things meaningful, click like to spread that value. And if this is your first time coming to the channel, don't forget to click subscribe with the notification bell, so we can always accompany each other in the next lessons. Leave a comment below, share your true feelings after listening to this part. Who knows, your little story may touch the heart of someone in need. Now, let's continue on the next part of this journey. Part 2, Detachment is not coldness, the power of emotional independence. One of the greatest misunderstandings about Stoic love is this. People think detachment means you don't care. That is false. Detachment does not mean the absence of feeling. It means the absence of dependence. And there is a profound difference between the two. Most men confuse love with emotional fusion. Where their mood rises and falls with a woman's attention. Where a text message determines their self-worth. Where silence feels like rejection. This is not love. This is emotional captivity. And captivity never creates desire. Why emotional dependence repels? Let's speak plainly. When a man becomes emotionally dependent on a woman, he subtly hands her power over his inner world. She becomes the source of his confidence, his peace, his sense of meaning. And no woman wants that burden. Not because she is cruel, but because instinctively, she knows it is unsustainable. When your emotional stability depends on her behavior, she feels pressure. Pressure turns into anxiety. Anxiety turns into distance. And distance turns into disinterest. Stoicism teaches a simple but ruthless principle. Do not place what is essential to your peace in the hands of another. When you violate this rule, attraction erodes quietly, long before arguments begin. The strength of the self-contained man. A self-contained man is not closed. He is anchored. He experiences desire without panic. He feels affection without possession. He allows connection without clinging. When a woman pulls away, he does not chase. When she returns, he does not punish. His emotional state is not reactive, it is regulated. This emotional steadiness is rare. And rarity creates value. A woman may not consciously say, "This man is emotionally independent." But she will feel something unmistakable. "I feel safe around him, but I don't control him." That balance is powerful. Why detachment creates space for desire. Desire cannot exist where there is emotional suffocation. It needs space. It needs uncertainty. It needs polarity. Detachment creates space, not through distance, but through inner freedom. When you are detached from outcome, you stop over-texting. You stop explaining yourself. You stop negotiating attraction. Your presence becomes calm instead of demanding. And calm presence is seductive. Not because it tries, but because it doesn't need to. The Stoic difference between love and need. Stoicism does not reject love. It rejects need masquerading as love. A Stoic man loves from fullness, not from lack. He chooses a woman, he does not cling to her. If she stays, he is grateful. If she leaves, he remains intact. This does not make him heartless. It makes him whole. And wholeness is what allows love to be given freely, without fear, without manipulation, without desperation. Why independence feels like mystery. Many men try to manufacture mystery through tactics. They withhold messages. They play hot and cold. They disappear to provoke reactions. This is insecurity pretending to be strategy. True mystery comes from independence. When your life is full, your mission, your discipline, your solitude, you naturally become unpredictable. Not because you are hiding, but because you are not revolving around her. A woman senses this immediately. She feels that you have somewhere to go. You have something to build. You are not waiting to be chosen. And that awakens curiosity. The moment she tests your detachment. At some point, every woman will test your emotional center. She may pull back. She may delay responses. She may question your interest. This is not cruelty. It is instinct. She is unconsciously asking, does this man remain grounded when I am uncertain? If you chase, explain, or panic, you fail the test. If you remain calm, warm, and steady, you pass without saying a word. Stoic strength is quiet. It does not argue for itself. Why letting go is not losing. Here is a truth most men resist. Letting go is not a loss. Clinging is. When you detach from the need to be chosen, you regain the freedom to choose. And choice is the foundation of dignity. A woman may walk away from a man who needs her. But she often remembers, and sometimes returns to, a man who stood firm in himself. Not because he begged. Not because he manipulated. But because he remained sovereign. A closing reflection. Detachment is not about distance. It is about ownership of your inner world. When you no longer seek emotional permission to be at peace, you become lighter, more present, more attractive, more respected. In the next part, we will explore why silence speaks louder than explanation, and how restraint in communication reveals power most men talk themselves out of. Part 3, Silence is Power. Why explaining yourself weakens attraction. There is a moment in every interaction where a man either rises in value or quietly gives it away. That moment is when he feels misunderstood and decides to explain himself. Most men believe explanation creates clarity. In reality, it often creates loss of power. Why the need to explain comes from fear. Let's be honest. You don't explain yourself when you are confident. You explain when you are afraid of being misjudged. Afraid of losing interest. Afraid of being seen incorrectly. And fear leaks through words. When you rush to clarify, justify, or defend yourself, you send a silent message. Please don't think badly of me. That message undermines attraction. Not because clarity is bad, but because need is visible beneath it. Stoicism teaches us. You are not obligated to correct every misunderstanding, especially when doing so costs you dignity. The power of the unexplained man. A man who does not rush to explain creates tension. Not negative tension, psychological tension. People lean in when they don't fully understand you. They become curious. They fill in the gaps. They project depth. But when you explain everything, your motives, your emotions, your intentions, you remove mystery. And without mystery, desire withers. Silence is not absence. It is containment. Why women test with confusion. Sometimes a woman will say things like, "You've changed. I don't know where I stand with you. Why are you so quiet lately?" Many men panic here. They rush to reassure. They overcommunicate feelings. They spill their inner world to stabilize her emotions. But what she is really observing is not your words. She is observing your emotional center. She wants to see. Do you collapse under uncertainty? Do you need to fix discomfort immediately? Do you remain grounded without approval? Silence, calm, warm, unreactive silence, answers all of that. The Stoic rule of speech. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." In love, that translates to restraint in speech. A Stoic man speaks when his words add value. His emotions are settled. His intention is clear. He does not speak to defend his ego, manage perceptions, control outcomes. When you speak less, your words carry weight. When you speak more, your words become noise. Why overcommunication is a form of control. Here is an uncomfortable truth. Most overcommunication is not honesty. It is control disguised as vulnerability. Men explain to secure reassurance, reduce uncertainty, anchor the other person emotionally. But attraction thrives on choice, not obligation. When you allow silence, you give the other person space to feel. And feelings that arise freely are stronger than feelings that are managed. The difference between calm silence and emotional withdrawal. This is important. Silence is not punishment. Silence is not sulking. Silence is not manipulation. Those are emotional tactics. Stoic silence is neutral. It is the silence of a man who knows who he is, what he stands for, what he will and will not chase. He does not withdraw love. He simply does not overextend it. And that distinction is felt deeply. Why silence reveals your standards. When you stop explaining yourself, something interesting happens. Your standards become visible. You no longer negotiate. Your boundaries. Your pace. Your emotional investment. People begin to adjust to you. Not because you demanded it, but because you no longer over-accommodate. This is quiet authority. And quiet authority is irresistible. When silence makes her think. A woman who encounters a man who does not over-explain begins to think. She replays conversations. She wonders what you meant. She evaluates her own behavior. This is not manipulation. This is the natural response to someone who does not chase clarity at the expense of self-respect. You didn't pull away. You simply didn't chase. A closing thought for this part. Not everything needs to be said. Not every emotion needs to be verbalized. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Sometimes the strongest signal of value is restraint. In the next part, we will talk about why being okay with loss changes everything, and how acceptance of walking away transforms a man's entire presence in love. There are things in love, only when we take a step back, sit down quietly, can we truly understand. I share these stories not to teach you how to love, but so that you can find the answers for yourself. If what you just heard touches your heart, please click like as a way to spread this positive energy to more people. And remember to click subscribe, because there are many profound perspectives on love waiting for you in the next videos. Now, let's continue the remaining journey together, because the most precious things are sometimes at the end. Part 4, The Strength to Lose, Why Acceptance of Loss Makes You Unshakable. There is one fear that quietly controls most men in love. The fear of loss. Not just losing a woman, but losing connection, validation, identity, hope. This fear shapes behavior more than men want to admit. It is why they tolerate disrespect. Why they over-explain. Why they stay longer than they should. Why they bargain with their own boundaries. And paradoxically, this fear is exactly what makes loss inevitable. Why fear of loss makes you predictable. When a man is afraid to lose, he becomes readable. His reactions speed up. His emotions spike. His boundaries soften. He tries to secure the connection. But security pursued through fear creates the opposite effect. A woman senses that. You are invested beyond balance. You are afraid of walking away. You need this connection to remain intact. That awareness shifts the dynamic. You stop being a choice. You become a safety net. And desire does not live in safety nets. The Stoic relationship with loss. Stoicism does not teach you to avoid loss. It teaches you to befriend it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that everything he loved could be taken away, not to become cold, but to become free. In love, this means you enjoy presence without clinging. You invest without attachment. You give without demanding permanence. A Stoic man understands. Nothing that requires fear to keep is worth keeping. When you accept loss as a possibility, your behavior changes. You no longer negotiate attraction. You no longer shrink to preserve connection. You no longer betray yourself to be chosen. Why acceptance creates calm authority. A man who is at peace with loss carries a different energy. He listens without anxiety. He responds without urgency. He stands without defensiveness. This calm is not indifference. It is self-trust. He trusts that if this connection works, it will grow naturally. If it doesn't, he will survive intact. His worth does not expire with rejection. That trust radiates. And people, especially women, respond to it instinctively. The moment you stop grasping. There is a subtle moment when a man stops grasping. He stops checking his phone compulsively. He stops rereading messages for meaning. He stops adjusting himself to maintain interest. Instead, he shows up honestly, without armor, without performance. This is where value crystallizes. Because grasping is the behavior of scarcity. And scarcity is felt immediately. When you stop grasping, you signal abundance. Not abundance of options, but abundance of self. Why walking away is not a threat, it's a boundary. Many men misunderstand walking away. They think it is a power move, a punishment, a way to trigger fear. That is not stoic. A stoic man walks away because alignment is missing. No drama. No speeches. No ultimatums. Just clarity. When you are willing to walk away, you demonstrate something profound. You value your inner order more than external approval. That is not negotiable. And what is not negotiable commands respect. How women feel around a man who accepts loss. A woman may not say it directly, but around such a man, she feels. There is no pressure to perform. There is no emotional debt. There is no manipulation. She feels chosen, not needed. And being chosen is far more powerful than being needed. Ironically, when a man is okay with losing her, she often feels safer investing in him. Because she knows he won't collapse. He won't control. He won't resent her freedom. Why men stay too long? Most men don't stay because they are in love. They stay because they are afraid of starting over. Afraid of emptiness. Afraid of silence. Afraid of facing themselves without distraction. Stoicism forces a man to confront solitude. And in that solitude, he learns. Being alone is not the same as being empty. Once a man knows this, his tolerance for misalignment disappears. Not from arrogance, but from self-respect. The inner shift that changes everything. The day you truly accept loss, something fundamental shifts. You stop asking, how do I keep her? And start asking, does this honor who I am? That question alone filters your life. It sharpens your decisions. It simplifies your emotions. It elevates your presence. And presence, not effort, is what people respond to. Closing reflection. Acceptance of loss is not resignation. It is liberation. When you are no longer afraid to lose, you stop shrinking. You stop performing. You stop bargaining with your worth. And in that stillness, your value becomes undeniable. In the final part, we will bring everything together. And talk about how real value is felt, not displayed, and why the man who stops trying to impress becomes unforgettable. Part 5, When Value is Felt, Not Shown. Becoming unforgettable without trying. There is a quiet irony in life that most men discover too late. The moment you stop trying to be impressive, you finally become impressive. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped interfering with it. Why real value is always silent. Value that needs to be announced is fragile. It depends on reaction. It needs applause. It crumbles without validation. But real value is felt, not displayed. You feel it in a man's stillness. His unhurried responses. His comfort with silence. His refusal to over-explain. This kind of presence doesn't demand attention. It commands it. The shift from performance to presence. Most men live in performance mode. They ask, how do I look? What should I say? Am I enough? A stoic man lives in presence. He asks, am I aligned? Am I honest? Am I at peace with myself? Performance seeks approval. Presence radiates certainty. And certainty is magnetic. Why women remember the man who didn't chase. Women forget compliments. They forget promises. They forget dramatic declarations. But they remember how a man made them feel. They remember the man who didn't rush them. The man who didn't pressure them. The man who didn't need them to be okay. Because around him, they felt chosen, not consumed. That feeling lingers long after conversations fade. The ultimate Stoic attraction principle. Here is the principle that underlies everything you've read. Attraction flows toward self-sufficiency. Not emotional coldness. Not arrogance. Not indifference. Self-sufficiency. A man who enjoys companionship but doesn't depend on it. Loves deeply but remains whole. Commits freely but never out of fear. This man does not dominate love. He hosts it. Why trying less reveals more. When you stop trying to impress, your humor becomes natural. Your confidence becomes grounded. Your kindness becomes genuine. You are no longer managing perception. You are simply being. And being is far more compelling than proving. The paradox of letting go. The greatest paradox in love is this. The tighter you hold, the more slips away. The looser you hold, the more chooses to stay. Letting go does not guarantee love. But clinging guarantees its erosion. Stoicism does not promise outcomes. It promises integrity. And integrity attracts the right outcomes naturally. Becoming the man who doesn't need to be remembered. Here is the final shift. When you no longer care whether you are remembered, you become unforgettable. Because you leave people with something rare. A sense of ease. A sense of dignity. A sense of truth. And truth leaves a mark. Final reflection. You don't become valuable by trying harder. You become valuable by standing still in who you are. By refusing to chase validation. By accepting loss without fear. By speaking less and meaning more. By loving without needing. That is Stoic love. Not dramatic. Not loud. But enduring. Conclusion. There comes a point in a man's life when he realizes that chasing admiration has cost him more than it ever gave him. It cost him his calm. It cost him his dignity. It cost him his center. And in that realization, something begins to shift. When you stop trying to impress, you stop living outside yourself. You stop negotiating your worth through reactions, attention, and approval. You return to a place of inner alignment. Where your value no longer depends on being chosen. This is not withdrawal from love. It is a return to self-respect. A man who no longer performs for validation moves differently. He listens without anxiety. He speaks without urgency. He loves without fear of loss. And that presence is felt, immediately and deeply. Stoic love is not about indifference. It is about emotional sovereignty. You do not close your heart. You simply stop handing it over as collateral for acceptance. When you release the need to impress, you create space. Space for truth. Space for desire. Space for connection that is freely chosen. Some people will drift away when you stop performing. That is not failure. That is alignment. Because the ones who remain are responding to who you are. Not who you pretended to be. In the end, value is not built through effort directed outward. It is forged through steadiness directed inward. And the man who stands firmly within himself no longer needs to chase attention. His presence speaks. His silence carries weight. And his value becomes undeniable. Without a single word of persuasion. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. I hope you have found useful lessons about love and relationships. If you find this video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. I really appreciate your support and will continue to bring valuable content in the next videos. Please continue to accompany me on my journey to learn about love and relationships. See you again and wish you happiness.